I'm going to take a look at the teams that are projected to have the most cap space in the 2024 offseason. Tied at number 6 are the Houston Rockets and the Oklahoma City Thunder, both of whom are projected to have between $18 to $20 million in cap space. I think realistically, both of these teams will look to use their cap space to add 1 or 2 small pieces around the strong cores that they both already have in place. At number 5, we have the San Antonio Spurs that are projected to have around $23 million of cap space. However, I don't see them making a ton of noise in the 2024 offseason. I think instead what they're going to do is wait one more season and try to make a big splash in the 2025 offseason. That'll be 1 year before Jeremy Sohan's extension kicks in. At number 4, we have the Charlotte Hornets projected to have around $25 million of cap space. Gordon Hayward falls off this summer. As well, there are rumors that they're not looking to retain Miles Bridges either. They could even look to move additional salaries to open up enough space that they could sign a max free agent. However, I think the more realistic path for them is to gather some assets, package them with draft capital, and pursue an all-star player like a Zach LaVine via trade instead, seeing as how historically they've never been a free agent destination. At number 3, we have the Detroit Pistons that are projected to have around $39 million of cap space. If the Detroit Pistons can find a way to trade Bojan Bogdanovic, which is probably pretty likely at this trade deadline, they can create even more room and set at around $55 million of cap space. The problem is I don't see any star level players looking at Detroit as an attractive landing spot. They may have to instead look at adding vets to the roster or overplaying for players like Miles Bridges or Gary Trent Jr. At number 2, we have the Philadelphia 76ers that are projected to have $54 million in cap space. On their books, they're only going to have Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey's cap hold, Paul Reed, Jaden Springer, and their 2024 first-round pick. With over $50 million in cap space, Philadelphia is going to be an attractive landing spot for any free agent on the board. So they can go one of two ways. They can either look to land an all-star level player like a Pascal Siakam, or maybe even a player like Paul George if he opts out of his player option, or they can pivot and look at adding complementary players around the core of Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid. Those may be players such as OG Anunoby, Saddiq Bey, or even Klay Thompson. And sitting at number 1 are the Orlando Magic, projected to have over $60 million in cap space. This assumes that they're going to pick up Mo Wagner's $8 million team option. However, they're not going to retain the likes of Jonathan Isaac, Markelle Fultz, Gary Harris, Joe Ingles, and Chuma Okeke. If they do want to keep 1 or 2 of these players, they can still choose to do so and still go into the offseason with about $40 million in cap space to add talent to the team that they already have. That's a pretty scary thought when you think about how much this team's already ascended this year. We're a quarter way into the year and they've already established themselves as one of the East's top teams and one of the league's top defensive teams. They could look to add players such as KCP, Caleb Martin, or OG Anunoby, just to name a few. The future's looking very bright in Orlando. 2 other teams that I want to quickly mention are 1, the Toronto Raptors. They're currently projected to be an over-the-cap team. However, if they decide to pivot and move a player like a Pascal Siakam, decide not to retain a player like Gary Trent Jr., and aren't able to keep a player like OG Anunoby from walking away in free agency, they could quickly turn into a significant cap space team, creating over $70 million in cap space. And the last wildcard team that I want to talk about were the Los Angeles Clippers. They were also projected to be way over the cap. However, in the event that Kawhi Leonard and Paul George opt out of their player options and leave in free agency, the Clippers could be a major player in free agency next offseason. The Clippers would have the ability to open up about $65 million in cap space if that were to happen.